Okay, back at it, Pat's Dolphins. We get a great preview episode here for you today. Not just because it's going to be me speaking to myself, which you know we do every Monday, recapping games. But A, the Patriots have a really good shot to win. I think Vegas agrees, kind of. Pats right now are 1.5-point favorites. But secondarily to that, they got Devin McCourty. Love having him on the show. Talking X's and O's. Stay in the locker room. This is a guy who's very close to Mayo. Obviously played with him. He's doing NBC, Sunday Night Football. But we really get into both sides of the ball and also what you just want to see from this team moving forward. Because if it's not going to be consistent winning, and they've obviously lost 3 games in a row, you need to see progress. You need to see young players. And Devin, as you've heard him before here, is not always going to be the company man. Like, he's going to tell you what he thinks. In fact, a year ago, after the Patriots lost this next game, meaning week 5, supposedly beatable opponent at home, that was 34-0 to the Saints. I think 34-0, by the way, is coming against the Dolphins, who are the only team scoring fewer points than the Patriots right now. But he said after that game, I think their only option is to tank. So that's a guy, former captain, future Patriots Hall of Famer, telling you exactly what's on his mind. He does that a lot more here. Before we get to that, I want to let you know, unfortunately, September is over. So over at Prize Picks, you don't get to pick up the Caleb Williams less than half a passing yard boom. But there is still plenty of money to win over at Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports ad. And right now, you can win up to 100 times your money with as few as 4 correct picks. All you got to do is look at 2 to 6 player stat projections. I'll give you a couple of Prize Picks here in a second. And you go more or less. That's all it is. More or less. And if you sign up today, you play $5. You get $50 in return. That's it. Win or lose. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, who's going to score a touchdown, who's not. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions and your takes and even double up on your fantasy team and win real money this season. We did that last week. I told you right off the top, Brock Purdy, more than 9.5 rush yards versus the Pats defense. It couldn't set the edge. Boom, he had that in the first drive. Came up just shy. A reminder, Stevenson going over 68.5 yards. But the week before, we were 2-0. So download the app today and use code CLNS and turn $5 into $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay, our Prize Picks of the week right here. This is a layup, I think. As bad as Jacoby Brissett looked, as bad as the passing offense has been, more than half a touchdown. So he just needs 1 passing touchdown, and you hit this. He had that last week against the 49ers. Austin Hooper in the flat. I think this gets done against one of the worst defenses in the league. The other one I'm going, less than Aaron Rodgers, 224.5 passing yards. He's in London playing against the Vikings. Old pal Brian Flores is spinning that dial in a way I don't think it's stopped since week 1. So whether it's the sim pressures, the actual blitzes, a lot of quarters coverage, Brian Flores knows how to defend that offense. He's experienced against Aaron Rodgers, did a great job back last time Devin and Flo were together in 18, and they held those Packers to 17 points. Now, granted, games in 2018 don't have a lot to do with what's going to happen Sunday, but I'm telling you, more than half a passing touchdown for Jacoby Brissett, less than 224.5 passing yards for Aaron Rodgers. There it is, your Prize Picks of the week. Now, Devin McCourty. All right, as promised, future Patriots Hall of Famer and current Rutgers Athletics Hall of Fame. Funny thing about the Rutgers Hall of Fame, you walk in and it echoes because they don't have a good way to fill it. And now they have Devin McCourty in there and Jason McCourty. It's just, you just hear yourself all over the place as far as the building can go. But he's here to talk about Pat's Dolphins. How does it feel, though, to be honored? I know you were, was it last Friday against Washington?
Yeah, man, it was cool being down there Thursday, doing a speech and everything with my brother. But then being back in that environment, you know, I might be a little biased, but Rutgers has one of the best environments in college football.
Oh, okay.
And I've been all over the big bosses at NBC, and I'm telling them, I don't know what you guys are waiting for, but you should be trying to get one of these Rutgers games on the Peacock schedule. NBC. I've been trying to let them know. Fox went there. Then McAfee had talked about possibly game day. I tried to tell them, you know, in the offseason, different times, I tried to prepare them for what Rutgers is going to do this year. So, no, but all jokes aside, unbelievable honor. And it was cool, I think, talking trash to Steve Belichick, as he was going into the tunnel at halftime. And then, you know, Coach Belichick, Bill was there and getting a chance to catch up with him a little bit and just talking about our our media lives and football in general. So overall, it was just an awesome 2-day span.
So, number one, I can't actually talk much crap to you because my freshman year at UConn, you had a pick six in front of me being somewhere up, sober as can be, because I didn't get the point of drinking at football games. I was like, all of the fun is on the field. I don't understand why people around me are not watching. And then you had a pick six and Rutgers won UConn. So that kind of ended our little former Big East rivalry here. Number two, I am really curious what Bill said about media life, and I'm shocked he had a second from hanging out with Chris Long and on Fantasy and McAfee and all the different stuff he's doing. Like, he had a second to talk about it. What did he say?
Yeah, no, we were just, hanging out and talking, and I think he likes it so far. I think it's been good. For one, I love it for him because I think people get to see the other side that the players have always seen. But you could tell like he's busy doing different things, and it's probably good. You go from coaching for that long, the last thing you want to do is just sit around. But for me, just talking to him, I've always been impressed and thought it was so cool of how much fun he has just being in Washington. Like, as we're talking, the game's going on, Rutgers is on offense, so obviously Steve's coaching the defense, and we're talking, he's just looking at, because he was so into, what Washington was doing, and Steve, and he's obviously been around that program a little bit, even, going into the season and during the season. So that to me was always cool. I think the outside of football parts of just seeing how much he enjoys being around, whether it was Steve or Brian, especially when it came to, coaching and doing football. So it was definitely a fun night, and Steve's my guy, but Rutgers got the last laugh in the end, which was what it was all about.
Yeah, well, we know how many Scarlet Knights that Bill drafted at Rutgers. Can you confirm if he was actually rooting for his son or his beloved Rutgers program?
He was doing the right thing. He was rooting for his son, but I also told Steve, and I told him, like, let's make sure we have a Rutgers T-shirt under all of that purple and all of that, because we know Rutgers where alone. One's heart always lies, So I'm sure they had some Rutgers gear somewhere, whether it was a T-shirt under, whether it was Rutgers underwear. I know the Rutgers gear was on.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Steve Belichick, Rutgers alum. It's it was a fun game. I actually watched that with Doug. We had just gotten into San Francisco. He's a UW guy, and I'm like trying to figure out what the call is, and I'm like, can I just like relax? Like, this is a front. Like, it's stop doing this in a hotel room in San Francisco. Get outside. So I did. Last thing on this, because it just occurred to me. The next time you see Bill, I want you to pitch him on, hey, all the 13 years of lowlights in the crap that you shoveled into my lap sitting front row in your meetings? We need to do some lowlights of yours. Like, you get the clicker. You're the media vet between the two of you, and we need Bill. Any pause, any explanation that doesn't go anywhere, any non-comment, like you could kind of give that back to him, no?
That will be pretty good. We pull up different plays, different calls that he made. You know where I was starting? I'm starting with Miami Miracle. So we get the breakdown of Miami Miracle and the defense that we ran. That'll be our first play off the bat, so everyone watching would know we meant business. But good luck with that ever happening. He has too many jobs to even think about doing that. This guy's too busy.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even think about bad calls that he made. I was just saying, like, first year in media, everyone stumbled. I did love the shade that he was not subtle about throwing at the Falcons on that Monday night game on the Manning cast. Like, oh, here's the guy that they signed and contacted too early. Yeah, they got fined for that. Lost a draft pick and 2nd and 7. Anyway,
that's what the squad meetings used to be. Throw a stray out there and then just simply act like you don't even realize what's going on and just smoothly say it, and then move on to the next point about the football game as Mooney made a catch. Then he started talking about the catch like he didn't just say that. It was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. And that's Bill. Like, we talk about, he's not going to really have his personality. You just said it. That's how he was in meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's him. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. You brought up Miami, and we're not going to talk about the Miami Miracle. The first time that I was like, oh, wow, I'm about to rip Bill Belichick, because why was Gronk on the field for a game that should have ended in a win? But Miami is coming to Foxborough Sunday, 1:00 kick. Both teams are 1-3. I have a column up today being like, I think the Patriots are already in a danger zone here. And part of this is stuff outside of their control, right? Injuries, bad luck, and depth, and yada, yada, yada. But when I used to say this, specifically last 2 years, some people within the team be like, oh, media panic. This is all media panic. End of the world. You kind of gave me a little bit of that before we started. Scale 1 to 10. Where are you on the panic meter with the Pats?
1. I mean, again, I don't live up there anymore, so I'm not immersed in it daily. But like, didn't everybody go to the training camp practices? Didn't everybody see the joint practice against the Eagles? Didn't everybody go to the preseason games where most of the teams didn't play any starters and the Patriots never really dominated a game, even if they had one good drive in a game? And out of nowhere, you beat Cincinnati, and everybody's like, oh, wow, maybe we were wrong. Maybe this team is really good. Maybe they do have a chance to finish first or second in the division. And I was just sitting there, and I'm just like, no, like, it's the National Football League. Everybody's figuring out what they're going to be in September. They're getting through things. It's so much going on. Like, patience. They go and play the Jets, and I called the game on Westwood One, and I'm not thinking anything about the quarterback. The next day, they're like, should Drake May go in? I'm like, wait, you watched that game Thursday night, and you thought Jacoby Brissett was the issue in that game? He got his head taken off over. I mean, Drake May checks into the game at the end, and he almost gets killed. And then Aaron Rodgers and the offense marched up and down the field, dominated time of possession. They played the game exactly how the Patriots will. They won't win a game this year if they get dominated time of possession and 3 and outs and give up points on. Like, they won't win a game. So for me, there's no panic because the expectations just wasn't that high. And I get it. And I'm speaking from my perspective. Inside that building, if I was a player and I was a coach, you damn right my expectations are high. I'm not putting in all of that work and expecting to lose. But you couple what they already had now and you lose. Like, to me, the defense took a huge hit losing Bent. Like, losing Jawan Bentley, he is in the mold of what we always had in New England. When I got there, it was Vince Wilfork, it was Gerard Mayo. Like, they were the heartbeat of the defense. The checks, the understanding of how we needed to play, they just always understood how we needed to compete as a defense. As those guys kind of moved on, and what's name, it was myself, it was Hightower. We were doing that. Like, we understood when one of us was out, the other one was there. Like, you always had that. And then I've been excited about how Pep and Doug have really stepped up, captains doing that. But like, the truth is, like, the way Bentley is, like, he is the heart of that defense, from the checks to the leadership. So I knew as soon as they lost him, I was like, no one's going to talk about it that much, but that's going to be a hard replacement for them to replace all the intangible things that he brought to that defense.
So you covered a lot there, and I want to come back to Bentley because I think you can speak to something that a lot of people can't. Where we'll say in the media side, you lose Jawan Bentley. Okay, he's a sure tackler. He's making the checks. That's a lot of leadership behind the scenes. I don't know tangible examples of what that means, like instances where you can see that. You do. So I want to come back to that. To answer my own question off the top, 1 to 10, panic meter is strong. I'm at like a 6, and it's not because I pegged this team for anything more than 4 or 5 wins. It's exactly what I had. But I want to ask you this question. Before the season, Devin, how many of these players could you have named? Demontre Jacobs, Michael Jordan, Brian Hudson, Sidney So, and Big Mike Onwenu. All 5? 4?
No, I was familiar with Michael Jordan, played him when he was in Carolina. Okay. Sidney So saw last year, and obviously I know Big Mike. That's where we leave that at.
So that is 3 out of 5, and that is their starting offensive line as of practice yesterday. Now, Nick Leverett got banged up in San Francisco, and he replaced David Andrews and played really well. I am down for single pressure. Good job by him. But this is a place where it's not only, okay, the talent's not good. You are now having injuries in spots to Jawan Bentley, David Andrews, we're going to get to in a second, that you just can't replace those guys. And like, if that's the foundation of the offense, there's nothing really to be done. Now, there's something that someone told me in the locker room yesterday of like, hey, here's the good thing. It's a young team now. Like before, when it was a bunch of old heads, that was our advantage. We'll have experience and versatility and all these guys. You had ego, families, like you wanted to win. You knew what it felt like. You wanted to get back there. These guys don't know any better. They just want to play. They want to win.
Yeah.
So I think the 6 is fair just because I think this is a slipperier slope than we acknowledge. But this can stop here against Miami because I've not honestly watched a ton of them, and we'll get to them in a second. To round back to Bentley and Andrews, what are they missing now with DA, Bent, possibly Duggar, who has an ankle injury, like the behind the scenes leadership stuff. What is not going to happen or be affected with these guys being out for the year?
Yeah, when I think of start with Bentley, when I think of Bent, I think of Thursday night. You play against Aaron Rodgers and he's getting to the line of scrimmage and he's checking stuff. All right, well, what do we want to do as a defense? How comfortable do we feel with the guy who's playing middle linebacker, whether it's Jelani, whether it's Raekwon, like, and this is no knock on them. They just haven't. They didn't do that. That was all Bentley's job of. All right, they're checking this. I think I know what he's checking to. I can get us in a new defense. Like, it takes a lot of practice to have confidence and faith that when they check, Mayo used to say it, they check, we check, they check, we check. And then at some point, they check and we don't have time to check anymore. So the balance of understanding that and being able to do that, they couldn't do that Thursday night. As I'm watching the game, that wasn't happening. So I walked away. It was like, that's Bentley. That's tougher to do, even for like a Pepper and a Duggar, who are good leaders. They're stepping up. They've never had to do that, because when you check something, it has to get all the way down to the front. So you need to know when you check it that your middle linebacker, whoever that is comfortable now making the check. You know how many times Dante Hightower cursed me out because I made a late check and put the pressure on him to get it to the front four guys. But then we would laugh about it later, or I would say, my bad, that was a little late. We could do that. And I think it's the same thing from an offensive standpoint of having David Andrews. Defense gives you a new look. They jump into something. He has the knowledge and experience to be like, I don't like what we're in right now. Hey, check it. Like, those little things within a play, it seems like, well, that only happens a couple times. No, you can get into a game where you can get a whole series of, once this team starts going, they go, and they're doing that. And now, but until you get into the locker room at halftime, do you have enough experience and stuff to say on the sideline, let's do this and let's do that? And 2020 was a prime example. Hightower decides to opt out. Bentley gets hurt a little bit. Like, we had linebackers that had never really played, so I had checks I would want to get to, but I have to now think, is it realistic for me to put this on some young guy who's getting his opportunity to play and he knows the game plan, but he doesn't know this check I'm trying to go to? So I think that's what they're going to struggle with now. And it's hard because each week you want to have a plan that allows you to play to that team's strength. But when you start losing guys, it makes it harder and harder to get away from the things that you practice the most and do new things, because you just don't have the rhythm. You don't have guys in there doing the same thing over and over again. So you end up trying to put more stress on other positions. So whether it's the secondary or different groups like that, or the tight end room, like rooms that you feel good about, just putting more pressure on them to do more so you can help the other guys along the way.
Yeah, and if they get younger, which we know they're going to do, that's part of the plan, the pack away, the rebuild, that menu of checks of, we did this in 22, let's go back to this, or this
exactly.
coverage against empty is not available to you.
You
they weren't there in
22.
So it's not just that Bentley's removed. You're like, okay, Raekwon McMillan's been around and he'll get more reps and he'll get more adjusted. But like that year you referenced in 20, it wasn't just that Anthony Jennings and Josh Uche were rookies at that linebacker level. These are guys who played on the edge in college, and you had to sub in to play off the ball because of all the injuries you just mentioned. That's kind of where we're headed now. Not just that rookies are going to play, but they're going to play out of position. So can I get you to a 2 then out of 10, or are we still at a 1?
Yeah, we could jump to a 2, but the reason the panic doesn't go high for me is because even if it looks better, they still might not win. It's just the truth of the matter. So, and I firmly believe the NFL is only about winning. Like, we saw the Baker Mayfield comments about him coming and being fun, and Brady responded to it because, like, ultimately New England is seeing it. Like, nobody has fun losing every week or every other week or 10 or 8 games in a row. Like, that's not fun. I don't care what anybody says. Your coach can let you play dodgeball all you want. You can do fun things in facility. Going out there and losing every week is not fun for anybody. I don't care what anybody says. It's just not fun.
Is Gerard playing dodgeball?
I don't think so. That would be fun if he did, but I don't know if that would lead to job security.
Yeah. I know there are a lot of good NCAA football battles that are being had in the new game room, which never existed when you played. But
pretty cool game room too. I saw it one
really?
of the times I was up there. Yeah.
I'm lucky. I got to sneak in there somehow. Real quick, and David Andrews, then we got to get to the game. My background on this is someone who spoke basically as close as you can to his injury situation. He insisted he was going to play Monday, didn't expect to make a decision until later this week. Tuesday comes out, either the surgery is going to wipe out this season, but if he plays through it, it could impact his availability for 2025 when he's under contract and wants to play. Confirm all that, mention that a decision is not imminent. Well, lo and behold, the Patriots had enough people talk to him. You should get the surgery. But even Tuesday morning, he's telling Jacoby Brissett, like, yeah, I'm going to try to work through it. He's not going to. They're going to miss a lot with him, aside from the checks and the protections. Just what does that dude mean in the locker room, having been around him as long as you were?
Yeah, I just think, for one, he doesn't have a lot of words. He's a man of few words, but I think the opportunity people get to just watch him. Undrafted free agent, rookie year, played every snap in the preseason. Every single snap in the preseason on offense. Like, that's the mentality he has day in and day out. And the hard thing is, I think from the outside looking in, you're like, oh, well, he's not going to play because the team's bad. He's not going to fight through injury like he should. Or the truth of the matter is, sometimes you fight through injuries and you suck. You go out on the field and you suck. Like, it just is what it is, especially depending on what you injured. And the reports came out that he injured his shoulder. So you go out there as an offensive lineman and people start to find out, because you're probably going to have something on one of your shoulders, and they see, what is the game plan going to be?
Yeah.
Rush that shoulder, like, no matter what. And if you can't take that and go, so I think Dave's making the right decision, because for one, in this league, especially as you get older, every time you go out there on the field and you don't look good, everyone says you're old, you're done. So then you end your career. And the second part is, you don't help the team going out there and being bad. The leadership, the presence he has, he can still have that. And I'm sure he will, day in and day out, being in the meeting rooms, being in the facility, rehabbing, guys seeing him attack rehabbing and understanding how much it means to him that he's crushed, that he's missing the season. Guys feed off of that. So, and I know Dave will have that kind of impact on the team, of being in there day to day, inspiring and motivating those guys. But I also think those guys will benefit from just watching him and watching how he attacks the rehab. Same thing he did in 19 when he had the blood clots and he had to be out. He was always there helping people, trying to figure out when he could fly on a plane to go to the away games. Like, that's just who he is, and I think he'll have that same impact.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. He was at the facility. He was on the practice field yesterday with Nick Lever. For whatever reason, was limited, and talking through things. And a couple of guys were like, look, he's already coached. We have 3 offensive line coaches now. He's the 4th. That's just kind of what it is. All right, Pat's Miami coming up. I'm just going to say this, and then we'll get straight into the game. If you want to go to the game, there's one place you got to go, and it's Game Time. Why? Because Game Time, with all the different secondary prices and places you can get tickets, has the lowest price guaranteed. And if you find somewhere else that is a lower ticket price, say Devin McCourty's house, they will give you 110% of the difference if you show them that ticket, and then you'll get to go. And I would suggest going to this week's game, or the Jets later this month, or Houston's coming to town, because A, there's going to be great weather. You're going to have pumpkin beer, and tickets are going to be good, and they're going to be competitive. So go to Game Time right now. Lowest price guaranteed, filters out all the fluffs, only incredible deals. And if you do this, downloading the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS, free $20. It's like finding $20 in your pocket, except for it says Game Time on it. So download the Game Time app today, create an account, terms do apply, code CLNS. What time is it? Game time. All right, Game Time.
Are you going to guarantee a good game too?
I'm not going to guarantee anything that's not on the copy. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, here's the rundown. Patriots are 1-3. Miami is 1-3. The last 4 for the Dolphins. This is their entire schedule, and this is how we're going to go through all the preview episodes. Last week they lost 31-12 at home to Tennessee. The week before, 24-3 loss at Seattle. The week before that, 31-10 loss versus Buffalo on Thursday night, but they won their opener 20-17 versus Jacksonville. These are both bottom 5 football teams. Patriots are 29th overall by DVOA, 29th in offense, 28th in defense, but number two in special teams. Miami, 31st, the second worst team in football right now by DVOA. Worst, dead last, 32nd in offense, 23rd on defense, 8th in special teams. So when the Patriots have the ball, I asked the same question of James White and Mike Giardi the 2 weeks before. I don't know how Mike got on the pod. It's
I was
just
about to say, what a difference. You asked James White something, then you asked Mike, and hopefully you threw one of those opinions out.
yeah, I think we threw the whole episode out. It's just YouTube just said you violated our terms of policy. We need to eject this immediately. I'll ask you the same thing. What are you doing to jumpstart this passing game to whatever level that you can at this point?
I mean, for one, it starts with protection, and it starts with being able to run the ball and have different looks off of running the ball. So I think one of the things that possibly could benefit them if they can handle it is get a little bit more up tempo. The problem is if you don't get first downs and you go 3 and out and the defense is back on the field fast. But just something I think that can get the team going. I think the Jets put a little bit of a formula of just sending pressure and being able to cover in the back end. San Francisco is always different. That's not really who they are, and they have some absolute studs on their team. So, but I think a game like this against Miami, you're playing so poorly on offense right now. Like, you don't even know teams go to against you. Like, you don't understand how they're going to play you. Whereas, like, some of these offenses, they know. Like, you play against Aaron Rodgers, he's dicing up zone defense. So Aaron Rodgers knows usually going into the game, like, I'm probably going to get a little bit more man. If they go zone, I'm not worried about that because I don't know what the offense in New England has right now to hang their hat of like, well, if they do this, that's our strength. So we're going to game plan mainly for them doing this because we know they can't do that against us and expect success. So I think maybe a little no huddle, a little up tempo can help them out. Again, like when you can't protect, it's really hard. And when I say protect, it doesn't mean that like these guys are just awful. Protect consistently, being able to do different things from an offensive scheme standpoint that the offensive coordinator feels good of running plays to set up another play, like to get into a rhythm of the game. And that's what they've struggled to ever like fully get into a rhythm of the game to be able to throw the ball down the field and get things going. So, again, I think no huddle. I think obviously getting the running game going, a little what we used to call max passes where you try to block up everybody, keep, an extra 1 or 2 guys in, but then you put a lot of pressure on the guys that are out, maybe 2 guys running a route, they got to win. You know what I mean? So that's the hard thing. But I will say overall, watching some of these young receivers, it looks like they're improving. They're winning. Polk had a non-catch that could have easily felt like it could have been a catch in San Francisco. Pop Douglas, I think they're struggling to get him the ball, but when you watch some of the film, he's open sometimes. Like, he's doing a good job getting open. So I think they should have some confidence in those guys at receiver to try to do some different things to get them the ball.
Yeah, I mentioned tempo last week, and I like it not even as, hey, we're going to go no huddle 80 miles an hour down the field, but you kind of change the pace, right? Like you talk about Aaron Rodgers getting up to the line, using that cadence. Okay, stop, back on, check with me. Jacoby can do that. He's done it. We saw it in training camp. It's just something, like you said, to kind of jolt this. I want to first argue against my suggestion, and then I'm going to make it. Because Miami right now, in addition to being the worst offense in the league, is using the highest rate of motion. And I don't know if you got the class or the seminar or the packet, Devin, where it says the media must rule over motion at all times, because it's something we can see and we can measure, and that means it's something worthwhile. Miami, again, number 1 in the league in motion, dead last in scoring points. But I watched a lot of 3-yard stop routes in San Francisco as part of this quick game package. And what you have were Niners corners driving on those because there was nothing stressing them otherwise. Their receivers in isolation. The Patriots are dead last in motion at the snap this year. They're like 20th in overall motion. I need to stress the defense a little bit more schematically than I think they're doing right now to unlock some spaces, either, moving eyes in zone or creating conflict and traffic versus man. And they'll do a little bit of this. Like Pop Douglas will start in the left slot and zoom across the formation, and then he's running a wheel and it's a post wheel. And they're like, okay, that's standard. But if you're staring at that as a DB, you're like, right, it's all simple. You just need to make it a little harder. So more motion like that, I think, could get them some freer yards or easier access stuff than right now where it's like, okay, everyone has to win in their route, and that's the only way that we're going to throw the ball.
Yeah, and the hard thing is, for the most part, like I think of Van Pelt, like their offense was always kind of built on more like personnel changes of running the same things with different personnel. Like when they were in Cleveland, it was 3 tight ends, but it would look like three wide receivers in the game, and then you would throw the ball. And like I haven't seen much of that. And I know a little bit of that falls on the personnel that they have, but I think to your point is I would love to see the motions different, but I think they have to get a little bit more exotic. And that's easier said than done when I don't know the capacity in which guys can handle and do those things. Do you have enough guys that, we can run 13 personnel, 3 tight ends, and have a full running game off of it, but also a full passing game, drop back? Like, do we have enough time during the week to implement that and everybody get what they need to do? Or do we need to rep it a ton? So then if we rep a lot of that, then we lose another personnel group. Like, that's the hard thing that I don't know from being in the building if they can do that. But that, to me, offensively, they have to find advantages before the play starts. Like, give them some kind of edge before the play starts, because I know people, they hate hearing it, but like overall, when you draw up what they're going against, a lot of times, like, there's a good amount of matchups as a defense. You come into the game and you go, I like that matchup for us. Like, I like that. And when you have that situation, you have to try to find certain edges to even the playing field or give your guys enough of an edge that it makes it a little bit easier to make a play, or eventually, like, the other team just makes a couple more plays than you.
Yeah. And to the point about matchups, I want to get where you think they should just hammer the Dolphins, if anywhere. But it's kind of a loaded question, or maybe it's not loaded at all when you're 31st in passing and you're 27th in rushing right now by DVOA. Now, granted, Miami defensively, 22nd against the pass, 26th against the run. You brought up the tight ends. And again, I want your answer on this too. I think that's where I would pivot. Like, their 3 receiver sets right now are giving them nothing. They have the lowest success rate of any of their personnel groupings. They're using them a ton. There are a lot of different reasons for that. But at least when you're in those 2 tight end packages, that helps in protections if you want to go to some of those max looks. These guys can chip if they're going to dump off into the flat anyway, or run a little stick, or run a little stop route or whatever. And right now, the Pats are 3rd worst by pass yards per attempt and 6th worst by passer rating overall as a passing offense. But when they run 2 tight ends, as 12 personnel sets, they're average. It's average by passer rating and yards per attempt. So that's what I would see. But whether it's something the Patriots are doing with their personnel or attacking Miami's, what's an area you say, this is a battleground you have to attack and circle and look at?
I think it's on the edge in the run game, and I think ultimately can lead into the pass game. The Dolphins lost Ja'Lynn Phillips last week, and he's the type of guy who's a stud, a really good football player for them. So to me, you just said they're 26 in rushing as a defense. That's something that you have showed can be a strength for you. Now, you're banged up on the offensive line as well, but that to me is something that they need to kind of play towards. Getting Gibson and getting Ramondre on the edge and having the ability to make plays. And then that also comes with, once you get the running game going, maybe it's a reverse to Pop Douglas. Maybe it's a jet sweep to Pop Douglas to get him on the outside and get the ball in his hands. And I would say, especially early, trying to get different guys the ball early and not just doing it the traditional way. I would love to, I would credit Josh McDaniels. I thought he did as good of a job as anyone in 2020 when we had Cam, where Cam didn't get a full all season in training camp. And he used to find different ways to do different things, whether it was Jacoby Myers throwing a pass, like whatever it looked like. He just tried to do different things to help us as an offense to, all right, if I steal 3 or 4 plays, that can ultimately lead us into the red zone where we either score and now we get to 21 points, or we score twice and we kick 2 field goals, like different things like that. I think he did a really good job of that. And I think this Patriots offense, they have to find ways to get other guys. Like, you can't bank on, we're going to throw the ball to our receivers on three-step drops, quick slants, hitches, throw the ball down. Like, we can't bank on that because that hasn't happened for us through the first 4 games. So what are other things we can do to help get these guys the ball in their hands and allow the playmakers to make plays?
So speaking of those receivers, some good news here for the Patriots. Kendrick Bourne practicing again this week. Right now, from what I've heard, I would bank on him playing on Sunday. Once I have that a little firmer, you'll see it in writing. But for the folks listening on the pod, things are looking good. Number 2 is Vidarian Lowe might be back, which I want everyone to pause and reflect on the fact that his name.
Give him some respect.
Yes. Give him some respect. His name was shorthand for how do I want to capture the Pats offensive line sucks Oh, I'll say Vidarian Lowe's our starting left tackle, and he gave up 4 pressures in both the games. Now he is your, savior of this offensive line. He might be back. Lane Robinson banged up. He's having a tough time in pass pro. He's a rookie. I made this comp before. I don't know if you think this is fair. Shades, like very distant, faint shades of young Shaq Mason.
Mm-hmm.
Fair,
and that's what you expect. Like I'll never pretend I'm an expert of offensive line play. I don't watch much of the big uglies when I turn on the game, but young rookies will never, unless they're special. Like it's just not a smooth transition week in and week out playing on the offensive line. The different looks you get, like all of those things makes it harder. So that's a work in progress. But the key for them is those guys being on the field so they can get better, practicing, playing in the games. Like that is what New England has to push towards, of like those guys being out there and not banged up so much, because then every time you get banged up, you're limited in practice or you're not really practicing. You get out there on the game, like a lot of these players, they're not good enough to not get it in during the week in practice and then go play in the game. Like it takes a while to build towards that, to be able to do that at a high level.
Yeah, and they've had guys in and out. David Andrews is out. We don't know what that's going to look like until they're actually out on the field. But, the protection is what it is. Hopefully more motion, more tight ends, maybe a little bit more tempo on offense. And honestly, NFL teams are 5-33 this year when they score fewer than 17 points. Can we just get it to 18? Like just get
that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, and they have one of those wins, by the way, because it was 16-10 in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Defensively, I mentioned Kendrick Bourne's been practicing again. The same is hold true for Sione Takitaki, Marte Mapu. I have no idea what to expect, if anything, from either of those guys, even though right now, with Kyle Duggar likely out with an ankle injury, Pep has been out with a shoulder injury, and we'll see what brings there. But you're talking Jalen Hawkins, Del Pettis, maybe Brendan Schooler playing there. Maybe they rush Mapu back, maybe they don't. I want to ask you about something else, though, because I've said this, I've written it, and I've given my reasons why, but you are more familiar with the system. You played there, you know the guys, everything. I think the Patriots have been outcoached a little bit on defense the last 2 weeks. You covered the Jets game. I saw it in San Francisco, the way that they were playing as much base as they were, injuries factored. That's what Shanahan wants. I'm going to run the ball 30 times to you and hit you over the top of play action. Mm-hmm. Do you agree, though, or disagree with this notion that the last couple of weeks, unlike in the opener, I think they've been outcoached a little bit?
I thought the Jets game definitely fall into that. I knew San Francisco was going to be a tough ass because we played them in 2020. The way their scheme is built is really tough on the Patriots. What they do and the way they're built, how they can come out in big personnel, but because of George Kittle and Juszczyk, like they can then spread you out. But now you have the big people on the field, and Kyle Shanahan knows exactly what we're talking about with the Patriots on what they should do. San Francisco not only does that, they have some of the best versatile pieces in the National Football League. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Juszczyk. Like those three guys, and having a game plan for them, you have no idea where they're going to line up or what they might do on a play, is really hard. And then you put in the factor that the Patriots are now playing without their signal caller, the guy who would be responsible for getting them in and out of the defenses. I think that has been more to do with some of their defensive struggles and being, out coached. Is I don't think that I don't know how much DeMarcus Covington can actually install and implement that it's going to be new and based on stopping the new offense that they're playing. I think that has been a big challenge for them. And I thought that even showed up a little bit to me. Seattle too I thought they need to play way more man-to-man coverage because Geno and that, like they were dicing up the zone, and I thought they needed to get to some more man would have helped them in that game as well.
So Miami, going back to that for a second, they're 30th in passing, 32nd rushing. They stink. They're terrible. A lot of this is losing Tua. They haven't been particularly good up front. Patriots are 28th versus the pass, 18th versus the run. Your scouting report on this system, it's Shanahan-esque. Like what did you know about what they want to do and how they want to do it when you were playing and you still watch them now?
It's what you just said, though. It's what do they want to do when Tua is there, and what do they want to do when Tua is not there? When Tua is there, I would say for the most part, they do the same things. They just don't hit the same way. Like the play action, the quick throws over the middle, the pop pass, how they're able to attack the middle of the field, but also have the speed that as they, fake or a jet motion and his A-chain or, whoever it has been in the past, they've been able to exploit that with some speed guys, and they get you kind of going this way, east and west, and then all of a sudden it's Waddle, it's Tyreek Hill right behind you, and it's so fast that when they catch the ball, they're gone. For some reason, they cannot find another quarterback who can come off those reads the way Tua could, whether it was Teddy Bridgewater, Skylar Thompson, like you name it through the years. When I was there, when Tua got into the NFL, when we played Tua, we lost. When Tua was out, we won. Like it was that simple because the impact he has. So for the Patriots, without Tua being in there, everything just slows down. So the truth of the matter is, if you watch the Buffalo Bills and the way they play them, they're like, and this is even with Tua, they're like, go ahead, run the ball. You'll get a couple runs, you get a couple. But the thing we will not do, we will not give up the middle of our defense. And I'm not 100% sure because I didn't go back and watch a bunch of the Buffalo games. But this year when I watched them, I felt like Buffalo's linebackers take a step back to get, instead of like 4.5, 5, it's almost like 6 yards between them and the line of scrimmage. They run downhill, they play that way, and then the secondary backs up and they say, you're not going to run by us. It's that simple. Drive the field, figure it out. Then if you score that way, we'll live with it, but most likely you won't. Now, the gift Buffalo has is they have 17 on the other side. He goes and scores touchdowns and they play from ahead. If New England could do that, play that style, and get some points on the board and play from ahead, that takes the running game out all by itself. So it'll be interesting to see if they can pull that off and do it.
Yeah, I agree. To your point, Buffalo also plays a ton of cover too, which we've seen a lot from the Patriots here. And you want to talk about capping Hill and Waddle. That's where I would start. If I'm not sure about my safeties, don't put them in the middle. Like you were always responsible all alone, like you are today at the household. Like single high stuff. We got to play cover too when it's just you got two parents or two safeties back there, especially with some injuries. And again, I don't think Duggar's going to play. I think Pep might. You're dealing with injuries at linebacker, up front defensively. The edges are going to be huge too because that's know-how, whether through motion or just getting H-in on the edges, or sometimes giving the ball to Hill and Waddle. That's how they want to play. The issue for them is Tyler Huntley's now pulling the trigger, to your point. He was 14 to 22, 96 yards, rushed for another 40 and a touchdown on the ground when Miami played Tennessee last week. But this is your biggest hope if you're the Patriots going, he's technically a Pro Bowler, but he's in a new offense and is still learning the names of the guys he's throwing the ball to. So is this as simple to you as keep Huntley in the pocket and keep a lid on Hill and Waddle, who both are fine to start this year, 17 catches and just over 200 yards. But is it that simple?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you get Anthony Jennings back. You get him back. Who one thing about Jennings is edge is going to be set, and you get Keon White on the opposite side. Like you should feel pretty good about setting the edge and having those guys have their eyes open and seeing the speed coming, whether it's Tyreek Hill coming in the backfield. All those little things, you should feel good about that. I think the key for them is going to be like, how good do you feel inside, right? Your defensive tackles, your linebackers, to your safeties of, all right, those guys are doing a good job of forcing it back inside. Now we got to step up. We got to get off blocks. We got to make plays. So I think that'll definitely be a key. But yeah, Huntley could ruin the game simply by running. Like that is something they have to make sure when they get in passing situations that they realize it's more important that he has more time in the pocket where he's sitting there in the pocket to throw than it is where you rush him, you make him leave the pocket, but now there's no edge and he can just run. Like that's a lot worse for that defense than him sitting back there patting the ball, because if he's patting the ball, that means we're still doing pretty good in coverage. We gotta bank on that. He's gonna struggle to know where to go with the ball, and eventually we will get home and get the sack. But you don't want to run. Like I was watching Pittsburgh film and Indy came scot-free off the edge. They got Justin Fields, dead to rights, unblocked guy. He looks at the guy, puts his foot in the ground, runs the other way. He picks up 16 yards. And Snoop Huntley's the same way. Like you can be free to him, but if he makes you miss, he's gone. So they have to do a good job of keeping him in the pocket and contain rushing him, whatever words you want to use, but making sure he stays in the pocket.
Cool. All right, we're going to go speed round here. You've been more than gracious with your time, staying way longer than I told you we would go. 3, 2, 1 preview. We do 3 matchups, 2 keys, 1 wild card thought. A matchup you're looking, saying like, okay, if this is going to decide the game, might decide the game, this is that matchup.
Oh, it's definitely Miami's defensive line versus the New England offensive line. I think that is the matchup that I want to see. There's sadly in this game, there's no like one guy that, you sit there and you say they have to. I think Miami's interior with Sealer and Calais Campbell could be a problem. But overall, like, the Patriots have to dominate. Like, the game they won this year, they manhandled the line of scrimmage offensively. Like, that has to be the key for them.
Yeah, I'm looking at the edges. We just talked about it. Jennings should be back. You still got Uche in the mix. Wise is there. Keon Light's running behind the quarterback, which we know is just the fastest way to a timeout. And Bill Belichick's defense goes stand in the corner, Keon, and stare there for 10 minutes. The other one I'm looking for is just ball security. Anyone running by Ramondre Stevenson who has a handout versus him, because that ball's been on the ground way too much. In a way,
yeah, he's got to protect the ball.
You don't see it in high school, and like, we took this long to get to it because I don't know what more there is to say. It's just bad,
and it's tough for them because they have to give him the ball. Yeah. Like, as much as you want to feed Gibson, and that's great. I would give Gibson more carries too this week, but like, you need to run the ball a lot. You need two guys, so Ramondre is gonna have the ball in his hands, and he's a guy that they have to feel is one of their best ones. He has to be better. This isn't on Mayo to make a decision and like, Ramondre Stevenson has to be better protecting the ball because they count on him to play, and they're going to continue to count on him to play. It's up to him to get that done.
Yeah, you're holding the ball. You're holding the franchise. 3 matchups there. 2 keys. What do you got? Or 1 key?
1 key for the game.
Yeah.
You took the best key ever because the game's not – turnovers are the key to the game. But I would go on the other side. I would flip it to defense. I think the key to the game will be the secondary. I think for every position that's hit, the corner group is still good. If Peppers can get out there and play, if Marte can come back, and they can, use the other guys like Del Pettis and School, if they can use them in a role, you have to look and say, all right, that's probably our biggest strength right now as a defense of having Gonzalez and the Jones brothers or Marcus and John. Like, you have to feel pretty good. So they're going to need them to step up and be able to be a little bit more creative with the other guys, relying on the corners and the guys in the secondary to hold their ground and be able to handle things. Because, again, I know neither offense is good so far this season. I just think that New England can never forget, like, the defense is a strength of this team. And if they play poorly, it's going to be really hard to win. It's going to be hard to even compete if they don't play well.
Yeah, I already said setting the edge with the matchup. I'll just go tackling of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Like, that, they, as bad as they've been on offense, speaking of Miami, and Tyler Huntley's running around, doesn't know anybody, their stress on you is that, if you miss a tackle, they could be gone to the house. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, HN. Don't let that happen. Just tackle well. Last thing, one wild card thought. As long as it's Pat's Dolphins, it could be a memory, it could be goofy, it could be X's and O's, whatever it is, just a wild card thought about this game.
Oh man, wild card thought of Miami and New England. I'm not gonna do? I'm not gonna do what Bill always said. Don't live in the past. So I'm not gonna bring up some great memory of like Monday Night Football, playing the Dolphins and all of that good stuff.
You have good memories against Miami? I was gonna say it might be the opposite.
No, the funny thing is, because we won so much, when we lost, it was a way bigger deal, and like forgotten about how many times overall we did win that matchup a ton and dominated division. But the times we did lose, it just, again, Boston, the Celtics won the championship last year, and the whole run, it was like, this team doesn't look good. And it was like they lost like 3 games in the whole playoffs. So, but no, wild card thing for me is Jacoby Brissett has 3 touchdown passes in this game on Sunday. Let it rip, Jacoby. I'm going to text him after this and tell him I just went on and said he will have 3 touchdown passes in the game. I think, and again, the wild card thought is not without reason. New England's defense will create turnovers that will allow them to be in favorable field position, that will allow them to throw the ball into the end zone, because Miami, there's no way you can play New England and forget 8 in the box. Like, your safety, maybe your free safety's 9 or 8 yards off the ball. Like, the way that New England has played, I just don't see a reason to be any further than 10 yards by anybody who's a deep player until the ball snaps. So I think that'll allow them to throw the ball, and Jacoby Brissett lets it rip Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And now, look, if it goes the opposite way, I will apologize to him for setting you up to jinx him as bad as you did. I'll say this: whoever's leading after the first quarter wins this game. That's what I think this is. You're gonna feel that pressure,
What
that stress. Like it's just.
You don't think it's a high likelihood it's 0-0?
Oh, then we all lose. Then we're all going to go home, and it's going to be a tie, and no one had fun. And here we are again at 1-4. But hopefully now, hopefully there's some juice. It's going to be a great day at the stadium. You're going to be on Sunday Night Football. Who do you guys have this week for Sunday night? By the way,
we got Pitt and Dallas, old school classic.
Okay. That's just like the easy ratings button that you're just slamming there. Anytime it's the Cowboys, but especially Steelers. Look, I'm not going to say I'm not going to watch, but cool.
Should be a good game.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Always appreciate the time, man, especially when you go overtime. And we'll have to see how this follows up. Jacoby Brissett, 3 touchdowns. It's a lot.
I'm gonna text him. If he doesn't get it done, then I'm gonna call Mayo and say, hey, I told him that he had a job to do. He didn't do it. It might be time to just cut him now.
Okay. This is going off the road. Thank you, Devin.
No problem, man.
All right, Ja'Lynn Polk is our victim this week in the 4-minute drill to wrap up another episode of Pat's Interference. He knows the drill. You know the drill. We're going to start the clock, and here we go. Ja'Lynn Polk goes to karaoke. What's the first song he's going to pick?
I'll probably pick, the song where it goes, to the right, to the right, to the right. Yeah, so it'll be that one.
Are you doing it that volume? I feel like you got to be a little bit louder at karaoke bar.
Nah, yeah, I'll be louder for sure. I like that song just because, it can get everybody up and out their seats and dancing too. So,
all right. The NFL corner you're most looking forward to facing either this season or sometime in your career is who?
I really don't have a valid answer on that one. I just look forward to going out there and competing every week with anybody.
How about the next guy, Jalen Ramsey? You looking forward to that?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. The most important lesson you've learned about being in the NFL is what?
I think weighing in correctly. And when weigh-ins come in, of course, not being late. They find you nowadays. So not saying that that's me, but that is something that you got to look forward to.
Okay. When you look across this locker room and you think, I'm the best at this, could be a game, an activity, what is that thing?
Cooking.
What do you cook?
I can cook some chicken spaghetti. I can cook some turkey necks, some oxtails. I can cook whatever you need. I got it.
Anything you need. Because I was going to say, I don't cook, but I make chicken, turkey, and spaghetti. But the oxtails was new. That's a curveball.
Yeah, oxtails with some cornbread, some gravy, and some rice. You good.
All right, best part of moving to New England so far?
I think the best part is, honestly, the people and the scenery. It's real pretty out here, especially like right now with the fall and how, everything is changing. So it's pretty cool.
All right, worst part of moving to New England?
There's no worst part so far, other than I think like there's not as many like fast foods. I don't know, that may be where like I live at, but they're kind of spread out, so you got to kind of dig and look for them.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're coming from, Seattle, you got In-N-Out, and then you're coming from Texas before that. Like anything you want is probably just a 5-minute drive away. A little different here.
Yo, a lot different for sure.
You like Dunkin'?
I love Dunkin'. I've no hold off on Starbucks, but I kind of shifted away. My girlfriend put me on a drink. I think it's like the butter pecan iced coffee with cream, no sugar. It's been my go-to.
Every morning?
Not every morning, but mostly like on the off days.
All right. We got a minute and a half left. You scored a touchdown in college against Christian Gonzalez in Oregon. I know it wasn't against him, but I'm curious, when you were getting ready for that game, what was the scouting report numbers here over there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, elite guy. So, you got to be able to game plan and prep, around guys like that because, it's going to be a dogfight when you able to line up against somebody like that.
All right. What's the wildest ask you've received, a request in the last 12 months from someone in your life? Tickets, money, you get to the NFL, someone comes out of the woodwork to say, oh, can I have one of these?
Probably like snacks and stuff from like some of the guys in the receiver room.
Wait, there's snacks and their teammates?
Yeah. So they had me and JB go to the store and bring everybody snacks. And they'll just tally up stuff every day until we brought some stuff. So.
Okay. Sounds like rookie hazing.
Yeah.
All right, 2 more. What does Ja'Lynn Polk trash talk sound like?
Ja'Lynn Polk is here right now. I think on the field is like Peasy or Monster P. So he's not here right now. You got to tune in on Sunday to see.
Wait, you have a persona?
Yeah.
Monster P.
Monster P.
Give us a little taste of Monster P. This will be the last question. We're running out of time, but like, what's that dude like?
That's all I can say.
All right, put on the mask. That'll do it for the 4-minute drill. Ja'Lynn Polk, a.k.a. Monster P, excuse me. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.